Hey, this is Adam. Just wanted to pop on here before we started today's conversation and tell you about a really exciting event that we're going to be a part of this fall, October 6th at Bound Bookshop in York, Pennsylvania. We are so excited to be participating in the book launch for Madison Tyler Nelson's Portrait of a Haunting. This is just an incredible book that I think so many people are going to really love and enjoy. So we are so excited, one, to have had a conversation with her that you'll hear on the pod, but also in person being part of the book launch on release day at Bound Bookshop in York. Tickets are free at boundbookshop.com, and we hope to see all of our friends in the mid Atlantic area to come celebrate this really special book. All right, on to the conversation. Welcome back to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. We are so excited to be talking this evening to an author who has written two books that we just absolutely are obsessed with. Markus Redmond, Blood Slaves, one of the best books we read last year, and Blood Rising, coming August 25th, is one of the best books of this year. We can definitely already say, welcome, Marcus. We are so excited to have you.
You guys are far too kind. Far too kind. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, definitely. And listeners, we have another super fan that is joining us tonight, someone that we have talked to about how much we love this book. And we got the opportunity to invite her to come talk to, and she was very kind enough to say yes. And that is author Haley Newlin. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm such a fan of this saga. It's my favorite thing I've read this year. It's awesome.
Love that. Love that. I think that, Haley, when you start loving something, you go all in, you do all the tab work and everything. And it just was a perfect thing of, you know what, let's invite a guest here to walk through this. Listeners, I wanted to let you know that we will be spoiling book one in order to talk about some of the things for book two. So we won't be spoiling book two. But if you haven't read book one,
First of all, what the fuck?
Yeah. What are you doing? I literally just posted that I was talking with Marcus for Cemetery Dance, and I was like, if you haven't read book one, this is your sign. Like, what the hell are you
mhm,
doing?
yes, exactly. So you got to do that. And this is this is going to be a great discussion. Marcus, how do you want to give us a little refresher of book one and then how would you tee up book two?
Previously in the Blood
That's
Saga.
what I'm looking for. Exactly. That's
So
exactly where my mind was.
that's exact. No. So here's a funny side note. Blood Rising actually has that. So like if you
Yeah.
get Blood Rising,
It was so helpful.
there's an introduction that's called Come Sit a Spell. And Come Sit a Spell is told in the voice of Gertie. And Gertie explains everything that happened in Blood Slaves and welcomes you into Blood Rising, which is fun. But she's not here, so I guess I'll have to do it. So, Blood Slaves is about an enslaved man in 1710 named Willie who finds out that vampires are not from Europe, they're from Africa. So, he meets the last one, he takes the blood, he builds a vampire army, he takes revenge against the slave owner, he takes the plantation for himself and his people and the neighboring indigenous, and he ends the slavery of those people and decides that slavery as a whole needs to be ended 150 years before the Civil War. So in Blood Rising, it's a month later, and now he's got to do that, and that's a lot of stuff to do.
Love that. So would you say this is historical horror? Like what subgenres would you label it as?
I finally settled on historical horror. I thought it was historical fiction when I started it,
I believe that.
and
It
I
could
was.
be very much.
That's
I
so
mean, I thought
interesting
it
because
was.
that's
I
what
was.
Clay Kane said too. Remember? And we were all like, he wrote a
Yeah,
historical horror book.
Yeah.
it, it was wild because I was querying historical fiction agents and getting no bites. A friend of mine who was an author, She said, "Your book is great. Why don't you have an agent?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm sending the thing out. It's like every historical fiction agent." She's like, "Why are you sending it to historical fiction people?" I said, "Because it's historical fiction." She's like, "There are vampires ripping people's heads off. That's horror. What's wrong with you?"
What's
And
wrong with you?
so I started to send it to horror agents, and immediately everything changed. And then
That's so
I
Amazing.
awesome.
Yeah, so it's
Amazing.
definitely historical horror, but as we progress forward, I think we get into alternate history.
Yes, and I think that there's some social horror in here, I think, and just like the way that I don't know, faction, how would you say that? Horror, just like there's so many other subsets of this,
Yeah.
and it's you touch on.
Slinky.
I mean, it's scary, it's gory, but it is also just like you're touching on the fact that like this journey of what was that it's a retelling or a if things had been
Reimagining, yeah.
different, yeah, different, how horrific things were and how it could be different and really taking that overall narrative and power back and changing history in general.
I think
Yeah,
that you kinda made the point that you said this is 150 years before the Civil War, and I think, having read a lot of books, that talk about enslaved people and, the horrors and how awful it is, there seems to be a tendency, and I'm not sure exactly why, and I wonder if you have an idea, that almost every book or thing set is either right before or right before the Civil War. And, there's excellent books. I don't know if it's like a hope thing, I don't know what it is, but the fact that this is set in 1710, when we start Blood Slaves, it's like for this generation of people, there is no other,
right.
knowing.
Pretty critical to the story.
Right, knowing well, and obviously, like, people don't have the gift of hindsight that we do. We know it's 150 years. That is forever. And
Right.
so, the choices and the things, and, you talk about Gertie, that's a character I love to get into because I don't know if any character has gone on a journey from one place to another quite like she has. Why did you decide that is the year and the time that you would start this, saga?
So 1710 was, what's that word? Random,
Okay.
arbitrary,
Mhm.
but the era was very specific because, like, to your point, everything that you see about slavery is right before the Civil War, right after the Civil War. It's all very Civil War-y, and it's all very American, and it's all very United States, let's go, and it's all Lincoln, and it's all the same shit, right? By the time that is going on, slavery is a complete industry, right?
Mm.
Like it's a well-oiled machine, and they figured out what to do, and they figured out how to beat them without beating them too bad because you still got to get them out there on the field because they still got to produce, and you're still sending the money back to Europe, and everything's cooking, and it's a whole machine. In the 1700s, it was still new.
Mm.
It wasn't America. No colonist in 1710 thought of themselves as being an American. They didn't know what that was. They were British citizens. So it really goes back to the beginning of what this thing called slavery started as, way before it became what we know of it as. And also, you're talking about people who have memories of what their lives were like back in their home countries.
Mm.
Mm.
By the 1800s, you're talking about generations of people just in bondage, and that's it. But if we're talking about the 1700s, folks remember stuff. And it's really got to be a mind fuck to remember being a 16-year-old kid
Mm.
and running around in a field completely and totally free. And then for you to be a 34-year-old man and for longer than you were free, you've been a slave in this
Well,
foreign land where they yelled and screamed at you in a language you didn't understand, a language you had to learn from overseers who were beating you while they spoke it. Like it's a lot of stuff that I think is more, it resonates more, and it's heightened earlier in the timeline. So that's why I wanted to do, and also because I know as a series, I'm obliterating this entire industry. I'm obliterating this infrastructure. So I wanted to do it before it actually became an infrastructure, before there was an America to push it forward. Because then it's like, okay, if there's no slavery and we're done in the early 1700s, we don't get America till 1776. But do we get an America in
Mm.
Right.
1776? Does that happen?
Can I add something to this?
Yes.
Okay, so one thing that I kept seeing on social media was the comparison to Sinners. And it's really interesting considering, we were talking about the 1700s, this is the 1930s, and I knew that I was going to be talking with you guys today. So I finished the last 30 pages I had of Blood Rising today, but I also rewatched Sinners. And what I found so interesting is in the American public school system, we're taught that Abraham Lincoln ended slavery. It's
Uh-huh.
fucking bullshit, right? Like, and blood slaves is proof of that. That there's opposition to this oppression for so long, and that's what brought it to its knees. But
Mhm.
what I find so interesting is we're talking about the 1700s, early 1700s, and then Sinners, you jump to 1930s where people are supposedly free and it's the end of slavery, but 90% of the black characters in that movie are working in labor and only being paid money that they can use at a pre-designated store owned by white people. And it's
Right.
like, isn't that insane that we were taught it was over? Like, and then you're seeing this and it's people still don't have a choice where to live. They still don't have a choice where to work. You're only offering the black community labor jobs and then you're not giving them any kind of actual like usable outside of the, little area you want to keep them in, and that really stood out to me between 1700s and 1930s, and there's this idea that it was over at that point.
Right. Well, that speaks to my favorite line in Blood Slaves, where Quadzo is told by Samuel, "If you kill me now, I die a hero." And Quadzo says, "I'll be the one writing the history, and I don't even know your name."
Yes.
Damn.
Sick. Listen, Marcus,
Whoever
there are
wins gets to
so
write the history.
many
Right.
lines in your book. And Haley, like I hear you say, I finished the last 30 pages. Like, I think the mistake I made with book one is I went so fast. And I'm like, I think I need to, and so for book two, I went slow because it was like, okay, we've got to soak here. Like we need a soaking rain or like a soak in the words because
Yeah.
for book one, I mean, especially like the teeing it up and working, it was just like the scene setting, the feeling, the tone, the just like him just I mean, this was like it was clutch. I was just like, "Oh my god, you were taking me on a journey here." In a way that to what you said, like, we've read a lot of these books and they're fantastic, but I've never seen someone really just you took a different angle. It really worked, and it made me feel like I was in the book and, like, why wouldn't I choose that choice to
Mm.
become a vampire? Like,
Yeah.
it is the way out. It is miserable. It's like, this is the choice for freedom, and it's like you're still in a way, like, enslaved to the hunger of and, like, the immortality and all that, but there's at least some choice. There's at least some ways through this. So, I mean, this was such a exploration, not only like what you shared about Haley of, like, how many ways we were lied to, and that that's part of the machine, right? That's part of the well-oiled machine, long lasting, and just, you know, I certainly don't want to support Kanye because we don't, but that line of racism still alive, they just be concealing it. But it's like you see that in the way that people are like telling lies about DEI, they tell lies about affirmative action. It's like, oh well, even this summer where it was like, yeah, when it was so hot, it's like we're gonna shut the pools down because of those people. I mean, sometimes people don't even like say they don't mind saying the quiet part anymore. It's like it's loud and proud. And last Halloween season, they were passing out KKK coupons and to kids and to mothers and stuff, and so it's like, it
In our area in Pennsylvania, this isn't,
this isn't this
Alabama,
no.
you know.
Yeah, and it's like, they got called out for it, but I'm just saying it's like, this book is so important because it is a machine. It has caused so much destruction, And so I love the hope that this book really brings and the complexities of saying, no, it could have, here's a different version.
Yeah, and if I could add to that real quick, I was telling Adam, you weren't here for this, but I was telling Rebecca, my boyfriend's not or wasn't a huge reader for a long time, and then I convinced him to buddy read Blood Slaves with me after you and Rebecca convinced me to read Blood Slaves, and I he just he loved it so much, and I mean, he would read 10 pages, and then he'd come in and be like, "Did you know about this? That's not what we were taught, and did you hear about this? That's not how I heard it." And it reminded me of this conversation I had with Del Sandine about how, especially now and when we're getting all these book bans, books like Blood Rising and Blood Slaves and Clay Cane's Burn Down Master's House, they keep us informed of what they don't want us to know.
Absolutely.
It almost feels rebellious that we're taking in all this knowledge. But I started to say that my boyfriend read Blood Slaves and now he's reading Clay Cane and then he's reading Tanana Reeve. And Del Sandine told me the most important things about these books, like her new one, These Walls Remember and Blood Rising, is that they truly do spark a curiosity in readers and they want to go and learn more. And that's 100% true. You know, I read Clay Cane's book and then I read the Malcolm X autobiography and then I read Markus Redmond's book and now I'm starting to learn about Asada and it's just pointing me into all of this history that I'm now realizing was kept from us and that we've missed.
It's like the best rabbit hole, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just feel
No,
like I love that it has
there's
the
a lot of stuff. I mean, so you have books like Adam, you're probably this is the kind of stuff you're probably talking about, like books like Underground Railroad,
Mhm.
Colson
which is
Whitehead.
brilliant.
Yep.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and Beloved, which is brilliant.
Yep.
But what I wanted to do was because those books are brilliantly written, and they're almost like lyrical
Mhm.
in their descriptions of what was going on. Um, I I didn't want that. I wanted brutal,
Mhm.
just violent, savage language. Um,
Yes.
because
You you
for 2
delivered.
reasons. You set a goal for yourself. No, it's you have to just for story's sake, right? If you're gonna make a decision, if your characters are in bondage and they have to be free, and the only way they can be free is to die and then come back a monster that has to subsist on blood for eternity, things have to be really bad. Like,
Mm.
it can't just be like, he said a mean word to me. Like, that's not gonna, it has to be really bad. And unfortunately, it really, really was. And so, outside of anything else, just the rules of story, like these things happened. That's why I made this choice. It became imperative to tell the truth about what actually happened and show it, especially in a time when I wrote it, because there was all of this talk about how it wasn't that bad and
Mhm.
slavery was just black immigration. Ron DeSantis was saying all kinds of nonsense. I was like,
Mm. Yeah.
I can't, I'm just going to say what the thing. And then,
Let
people
him
get
take his
upset.
high-heeled boots and get out of here.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah. I mean, it was important that we know what really happened, not just for the reality of this history, but also for the story itself. So,
Yeah, one thing that I really love that you talked about, for when you set this book with people who have memories of Africa, the fact that, it's not talked about enough that Black people's genealogy has been stolen in America.
right.
You don't know, we think about, "Oh, I'm Irish. Oh, I'm German," all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. You can't figure those things out, because of it being systematically destroyed, records not kept, all of those kinds of things. So one thing, as I'm reading through these both of these books, I think about, okay, now we're gonna get, if it's not America, whatever is gonna come, from this story, it's gonna be people that weren't robbed of that. What happens to these people when they are able to keep their history, keep those
Right.
things that everyone else, in this country has, except for this one group. And people just don't think about the absolute pain and, the repercussions that that causes in an entire group of people.
Right. Yeah. Well, you have to. It's this weird thing, and I always rankle up a little bit at the
Mm.
term African American,
Mhm.
which I don't begrudge anybody. We got to say something. But Africa is a continent, folks.
Yeah.
It's got
Massive.
like it's got like a lot of countries that are
Mhm.
inside this continent. I have the same issue with Asian American,
Yeah.
because nobody
Yeah,
ever
you talk
walks
about
around
Ghana and
saying,
Egypt are on the same continent, and, come on.
right.
Like,
This is what I
yeah.
mean. Like nobody walks around saying, "Oh, I'm European American." Like that's not a thing.
Yep.
Like nobody knows what that is, right? So to like glump a whole bunch of
Right
people
there.
under, you know,
It's the
And
baked in privilege right there. I
well,
mean, right
Europe is
there.
tiny
yeah,
compared to Africa and Asia,
Absolutely.
and we don't
right,
do that for Europe. So it's like, yeah,
Well, we
right.
don't care to know. If you say, "Where is this country in the continent of Africa?" I mean, it's not promoted, it's not looked at, you're not expected to
not to
know.
mention the fact that all, world maps are so wrong and that Africa is so much more massive than even we,
Shout
know
out
it to
to the
be.
Mercator.
Map. Yeah.
That's what distorts it, in case you don't know, if you wanna
Mhm.
go down that there
Do you
Mercator.
guys know how? Do you know how the continent got the name Africa?
No.
I do
Because
because
it.
I've read your book.
Well, you know what the indigenous name of the continent is
Okay, okay, sorry.
because of blood rising, yes. But
Yes.
the way that continent got that name, when the Greeks were in the continent and heard the indigenous name, they basically just didn't want to say it. So they bastardized it into Africa.
Mm.
And everybody went, okay. That's like if I come into your house and you say, my name's Adam, this is Rebecca. And I go, no, you're Sam, she's Jessie. And you go,
Yeah.
okay. And that's
Yeah.
just the name now. That's how we go with. And like, that's what was done. The same thing happened in Asia. It's
And honestly, that's, such a good like, a main part in both Blood Slaves and Blood Rising, a huge part of it is, like, reclamation of, like, identity, and so I feel like it's definitely worth noting that, we know Willie as Willie in the first half of Blood Slaves, but then the second half and going into Blood Rising, he's Quadzo, and I think that's one of my favorite parts of the
Mhm.
books is just, like and it's so amazing how you're able to slow your writing down. Like, you'll have these action-packed moments, and then, there's, like comes this moment of, like, okay, this changed you, this reminded you of your power and, the power of collective opposition, and you're able to slow the writing down so that when they finally are asked, "No, what is your name? What is your real name? What is the name you brought from home? What is the name your mother gave you?" It's one of the most powerful elements in the entire book, in my opinion.
Thank you, Haley. Yeah, it was a big deal. In the editing of it, I was told to slow it down even more, to give it more space, to give it more resonance, which was really great to do because it allowed me to go deeper into Willie's story about how that name came to be his and the name he had before it, which was Runt,
Mm.
just to kind of show how arbitrary these names were. So it was something that was important to me. And it was something that I think if you're going forward and you're going to reclaim this, if you're going to take this revenge and, Quadzo knows I gotta get that house. I gotta take the house because that's how I get this thing started. This is how it's the starting point. It's the base camp for everything that's gonna come after. And to be able to like reclaim that, it takes a lot of gumption, as the old folks like to say. And I think really being able to start with your own identity is the first step.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah, absolutely. And, I wanna say, and, as you're talking about taking the house, I'm thinking about the climax of Blood Slaves and how fucking incredible it is. And I just wanna take a moment to talk about your vampires because they are my favorite vampires probably I've ever read.
Me too,
Agreed,
and I'm pretty
agreed.
picky about my vampires.
Yeah,
Same.
so I need to know, like, how much is from, like, folklore that I might not be familiar with, how much is how much because the powers that they have, the individuality of their powers is so fascinating. Just please tell me everything.
This is so great because I love talking about this and I rarely get to, which is actually something I'm kind of grateful for because we're a year out, past a year out from the release of the
Mhm.
first book, and people still don't want to give spoilers, which is a really cool situation to be in. But I'm going to completely blow that shit now.
Okay, you've been warned, listener. Back out now.
You didn't before.
So, okay, if you didn't know, you go know.
Yeah.
I have two creatures that are my favorite creature, vampires and dragons. So that explains why Quazo becomes a fire breathing vampire.
Yes.
Now you know. Sorry, folks. You want to understand? Go get the
That's
book.
so cool.
Um,
Yes, I love
so
that.
the 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 goal was to create the vampire in such a way that people, readers, executives, editors, agents wouldn't be able to say, "Oh my god, it's so I don't understand what this is. It's so weird and it's different and I can't get my head around it, so I don't understand." So that's why so much of what they are is very familiar. Like you
Mhm.
know what you're in the blood, you gotta get the blood fed to you, you gotta die, you all of that stuff. So what I wanted to do was just sort of add little touches of things that I always thought would have been very cool for vampires when I would watch movies. I never understood the whole thing about garlic. It made no sense to me. Never understood the whole thing about I have to ask you to come in my house. Is food. You food in the house. I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask my food if I can come into the house where the food's at. No, you just go in the house. It doesn't, that's hiding in the shadows and stuff. If I go to a barbecue, I don't hide from the grill. I'm gonna eat the food that's on because it's food. That's what I do, right?
Like, why did I
So
never perceive this and think
Yeah.
about this before? You put it out and you're like, "Oh, yeah."
We're
So
all
s
like we all just, like, collectively were like, "What?" Like, "This is
it's like
brilliant."
you have like all of this power, right? You like have super speed, super power, all this stuff, and then you hide in the shadows from humans. Like, no, you get together with your vampire buddies. You say, hey, I think there's like a good 7, 8 billion pieces of food out there. Why don't we just take over, make sure everything happens at night so we're good, and let's just take over. Like you would just take over, right?
Mhm.
So I also thought that blood was too sort of like open ended, right? It's like you could just feed off of anything and it's fine. Doesn't matter. Vampires can feed off of vampires and it's fine. But I was always like, well, what if like, you can't eat food, but you used to be a human. So like, what if you like forgot or you're missing like donuts? Like, do you go get a diabetic and then you take their blood because it's got shit? You know what I mean? Like just like stuff, like what would be in the blood that would switch?
Yeah.
And I remember looking up
Mm.
blood types and I realized, well, I can't do blood types yet because we didn't know what those were until like the early
Yeah.
1900s. But we knew what emotions were. So, love in the blood, hate in the blood, fear in the blood, all of these things that we know, we talk about, we sing about, they're in songs, right? So let's take those things and give those things value to the Ramungans and what they can do. And then in terms of the powers are a mixture of their blood, their human blood mixed with Ramungan blood when they're turned, and their own personal emotional triggers. So Quadzo, as a kid, can't stop the fire that kills his mother and his sister in their house. But when he sees the manor on fire, he's got to stop that. That house has to be his house. And it triggers the power. for him to be able to absorb the fire, to do the thing he couldn't do as a human kid.
It's
So
like the
as we
reimagining of,
progress,
trauma as your benefit in a way.
yeah, yeah, exactly. The
It's
thing
the
that
fuel
you
to your
couldn't
fire.
get done, you can now he can conduct it. He's the master of the thing that he feared. So as we progress, more
Love that.
Ramonga, not everybody's going to get powers, but people will have these moments where something triggers an emotional response, and that emotional response becomes a special power.
Hmm.
I love
So
that.
that's
This
I think
is
that's all of it, Adam.
Well, that and then also the fact that someone's emotions can be so poisonous that their
Yes,
blood could kill you too is the other thing that I was like, "This is
fascinating.
love it."
I
Like,
mean,
that's so interesting.
when you think about, like, how energy can be contaminating,
Yeah.
right.
or just but we don't,
Well,
like,
I love, like,
really
it
give credence to it, but the
specifically.
blood makes so much sense because it's coursing through. I mean, they say, like, when you have, like, experiencing the emotion of anger, like, you have, like, something like 50, 60 like, chemicals release in the body. So if someone's perpetually like that or,
Well, it's like, the fact that this character specifically hates him,
Right.
and that just is such a powerful thing and really kinda shows, like, how this really nonsensical thing, which is hatred towards someone because of their exterior appearance, can be so has been so poisonous to this country specifically, like,
Yeah.
everywhere, but specifically here in a really disgusting and harmful way to everyone, and, like, you personify it in this person, and I was like, "Holy shit."
Well, that see, and here's the thing that's like a bit of an Easter egg that I don't think folks know. So, like, first of all, like love in the blood, right? Like every love song, it's like love can heal you. If you're sick, you should have your loved ones around. Love, love, love. Like it's all. So, okay, cool. If someone is in love with you, their blood can heal you. If someone is in hate with you, now their blood becomes toxic.
Mhm.
And what I wanted to do was didn't want Big Jim to have the thing that could kill
Yeah.
Quadzo. I wanted someone under him. So really, Monroe's the one that actually has the power. If he figured out what to do and how to do it and how to he's the one with the actual power. The big guy sitting in the big chair, sitting in the big office, doesn't really have any power. So he's just kind of like, I hate them all. But that doesn't really do anything. But Monroe's thing really actually is the dangerous thing. Of course, he uses it to save himself,
Mhm.
which I don't know if you all can think of any other examples of that, in our current situation. But that was also a thing I wanted to show. It's like, our perceptions of power and who holds it and how they hold it get flipped a little bit.
Can I ask a follow-up question here? Okay,
Yes.
so I just have to point out, I didn't get to annotate this because Blood Slaves because I have a nice, beautiful hardcover, but I was fortunate enough to get an advanced copy of Blood Rising, and so I wrote all over this, and I was telling Marcus before we joined, like, one of the last pages of Blood Rising in the biggest letters I've ever written in a book, I just put, "Seriously, fuck this guy."
Absolutely.
But one thing I wanted to say is, we were talking about the hate in the blood and the love in the blood. Gertie is probably one of my favorite characters I have ever come across, and what I
Wow.
really loved about her is there are times when her humanity, her moral code is so at odds with Quadzo and Rafazi. As the reader, you're almost like, "No, they've been through so much, like, Gertie, come on, just go along with it," but by the time you get to Blood Rising, you're like, "Holy shit, we have who Quadzo was as Willie, the respect he carries for his people, the love he carries for Gertie, and that kinda thing." It all remains because of Gertie, because of who
Yeah.
Gertie is, and so I think that readers who were kind of at odds with her in the first book, but definitely enjoyed her character, how can you not, will really love her in Blood Rising. I mean, she is fucking fierce. She is a
Mhm.
force. I adore her.
And that's very kind to say. Poor Gertie.
I guess I wanted to ask
Gertie's
too,
been
like,
through it.
what is what is Gertie I guess I wanted to ask from that because you talked about I believe it was your wife who you
Yes.
were talking about the murder of George Floyd, I believe. I saw this on Instagram, an interview you did, and you talked about how she mentioned something about how if you could go back to the start where things really
Yes.
started to go wrong and kind of like either revise it or change what you could. What does Gertie mean to you? Like in that perspective?
Like in reference to my wife?
Well, I guess I just mean like in terms of, you're going back to that and there's all this anger and there's all this like you totally get the revenge and the vengeance streak, but then you have this character who kind of, holds on to the humanity of it all. And I guess I just kind of meant like what does she mean to you? What is this like kick-ass female woman who hangs on to the
I see what you
humanity,
mean.
who really is a leader of the group too? What do you think what does she mean to you?
So my publisher agrees with you, Haley. Gertie is her favorite character in the series. And Gertie's purpose is the humanity. She is the moral compass. She is the humanity. She is
Yes.
not only Quadzo's humanity, she's everyone's humanity.
Right.
And it was very important to me that because you go in and you have a thing, you have all this stuff going on, and it's really, really bad. And then somebody shows up and says, "All right, we're going to take revenge." And everybody else is like, "Yeah." And then the one person that's not into it, people are going to not like them. So it was really important that everything Gertie said was true and every point she had was right.
Mhm.
And she's right. This is a woman who's stuck between the biggest rock and the hardest
Biggest
hard
hard
place.
place.
She's
Mhm.
She's pregnant, she's enslaved, she can't marry this man that she loves, so she has to hope each day that she doesn't get raped again. She has to hope that somehow this child will get born and she'll still be a part of its life. She's gotta figure out how to not get beaten on a daily basis. So she's come to the conclusion, based on her religious beliefs from the country she's from, is to just be good. Just do what's asked of me, keep my head down, and be good. And she thinks she's convinced the man she loves to do the same thing because for a large amount of time he has. Now he's like, hey, remember that crazy myth thing that we heard about with the monsters that eat the. That's real. I'm gonna be one. Like,
Yeah.
like, are you out of your mind? What? What are you going? You could just be. You could be dead. You're gonna leave me and this child? Like, she's stuck. She's
Like,
just
slap them
stuck.
around, like, you can't be making decisions like this for with your child, and, like,
Yeah.
Right,
yes. I mean, it was like
It's not just you anymore that you're making
yes.
these decisions for.
right.
And do
It's
you
a
think
very difficult spot.
her character is sometimes feels like the glue in this story, a little bit because she's hesitant on Rafazi. She's trying to hang on to the Willie that she knows in Quadzo while still embracing Quadzo. And then, her survival isn't so much just about, making it through the next day anymore or even like kind of dreaming of the day of freedom too much. It totally becomes about helping this other being survive. And I think that that's kind of powerful
Right,
because that ultimately becomes Quadzo's mission is how do we keep all these other
right.
beings alive? And I think that's why the two of them are such a force together.
I really appreciate that. Another thing, I wanted their relationship to be the antithesis of the typical vampire romantic relationship. Because the typical vampire romantic relationship is like a 1,000-year-old vampire somewhere in Europe who's got a really cool long trench coat and he's super rich. He does all kinds of cool stuff, but he doesn't do anything. He's bored out of his mind. He has no purpose. And then there's a 19-year-old girl, and it's like, oh, now I know what to do with my eternity. And it's
And he's
like, really, dude?
hypersexual.
Yeah, it
Yes.
becomes this whole other thing where it's like these folks these aren't ancient vampires. Like, this just happened. And this is a real relationship with two
Right.
people who are dealing with the worst. situation and they don't see eye to eye on how to get out of it or how to move forward with it, but they love each other madly, but they're butting
Yes.
heads. And I just wanted
Yes.
it to be a real relationship that people could relate to and see themselves.
I think this is where, for me reading this is this tied back into, and I love that you touched on like, hey, I was originally pitching this as a historical fiction because I was like, I'm reading this as literary fiction, the way the
Oh, wow.
complexities, the things I love about that. And I kept picturing like the two of us of like, what if we were together this song and we're going through these things
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden we both are like, okay, we have the same goal, but how we go about it is vastly different. I
Yeah.
mean, life changingly different.
Mhm.
And I just feel like that is the appeal of like literary fiction of just examining depth and emotions and rawness, and you went there so well. And then it's like, I wouldn't say that it's romantic, but you explore love and relationship in that way of like, this is my soulmate, this is my person.
Right, the
Yeah.
loyalty between the 2 of them.
In between the worst
Yeah.
experiences that you can imagine to have and just the fierceness of that. It was such a, I don't want to say that the other parts were overshadowed because they weren't like, but they were like, there were chunks of these parts of each of these books where I was just like, okay, I could have just sat and read just about this. And then you gave me more and you gave me more. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it was layers
I
upon layers.
I think the other thing that's really interesting that you talk about when it's sort of the antithesis of the normal dynamic here is in the kind of situation that you talk about with this, European vampire and of always a 19-year-old, woman or whatever it is what attracts her to him is his vampiricness, right? This is the
Right.
opposite. Like
Right.
Repulsed.
she is repulsed by it, she is disgusted by it, and it also brings to me like some things, when it comes to current events, when I think about people that are standing up to things that they really feel are wrong. And they're like, "Well, if you do this, you might get killed." And they're like,
Right.
"Then I'm going to die
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's because this is what's right, this is the way it is, and if that means I die, then I'm gonna die knowing that what I did was right, and that's Gertie in the first book, and it can be frustrating because you're like, "But," you're looking at it and saying, "But you can do this," and she's like, "But it's wrong," and, looking at the 2 books as a whole, Gertie is more right than she's wrong,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and it doesn't
Oh,
feel
for
that way
sure.
initially, but
Team
as
Gertie.
you pull back, you're like, she's got way more points than I would've wanted to say.
There's
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
like wisdom baked in there that
Well, she's so
how she get,
wise.
yeah, how she navigates this is, and I'm thinking like, Adam, like you and I've had the conversation with you being a school teacher where you're like, if someone were, God forbid, ever to come in
Mhm,
to my classroom, like
mhm.
just know I'm protecting the kids.
Yeah,
Like
I'm going to die, and
there's
that's
no
just is what
choice.
it is. Yeah,
And it's like, and we're in alignment for that.
yeah,
And I get it. But like, what if I wasn't, And like,
Right.
that's just like a hypothetical, whereas they're living this. And I just
Right.
can't imagine from, you know, his perspective where he's just like, but I have a solution. Like I have an
mhm.
antidote right now. I just, boy, I just,
Well, it's
The
not
antidote for
even
one
that.
poison that's a poison in another way. Yeah,
correct.
Exactly. And also, and this is the tragedy for Quazo, because of Gertie's steadfastness, which he respects and admires in her, he's gonna lose her.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like, he has to live knowing that he's gonna lose her. He's gonna lose this woman who has
His baby.
built a very big part of him, you know what I mean? And she knows that he's going to go on. And, as you get into Blood Rising, you find out how she makes her peace with that, how she feels about what will happen in the afterlife and how she'll continue to play a part in his life, such as it is. But it's a very difficult position that the 2 of them are in, and even when they come together, it's still a difficult decision. It's still something that they know. There's something, there's an inevitability that's out there waiting for them that's just not gonna be pleasant. This is why the moment when she kisses him in Ramungan form in
yeah,
front of everybody is such a big deal for him because it's that full acceptance of
Love it.
not only who he is, but who he's becoming.
Yeah.
Yes, not to make light of it because it's like a serious thing, but like there's a thing on the internet where women would ask their significant others, like, would you still love me if I were a worm? And it's like, but that's kind of the thing. Like, would you love me at my worst, at my ugliest, as my in my most monstrous form? And like
Yeah.
that
Do you
acceptance
love
is
my essence? Do you love the real, like, foundation of who I am, or do you love the container that it's in, right?
correct.
Right.
Yeah, love that.
Right.
Well, I wanted to ask if you would be willing to talk a little bit about like for Blood Rising, the division within the Remungans. Just felt that was just very much like, wow, the way that you focused on human nature
Yeah.
and, I don't want to give it too
Power
much
does.
away or
Yeah.
too much, but yeah, the absolute power corrupts absolutely, human nature. Like, I wanted to know how much you're willing to share about that. But I think that's the most distinct part from going from Blood Slaves to Blood Rising is okay, so now we've got a lot of us that have done this. We've made this choice, and now somehow we are becoming enemies, even though we weren't the original enemies. And it's pretty fascinating. It's something like we could just. And I know you have questions at the back of the book, which are fantastic. But like this is something I feel like you could almost look at a sociological study on the behaviors that you
Mhm.
touched on in here.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Haley might have some thoughts on
Come on, girl, give it to us.
All right.
this.
I felt there was something like without giving too much away, there is betrayal in Blood Rising. There's difference in policy. There's difference in ethics all of a sudden. And I think that there's something very human in that, which is really interesting because, we're dealing with a huge group of supernatural beings mixed in with humans, And
Kind of
what
back to
I
that human blood again, right?
Right, right, and also just, like, withholding or what's the word? Maintaining the humanity as you come into power, and I think that that's ultimately what kinda creates the division, is that you have these everybody's angry, everybody is proud of the victory and blood slaves and things like that, but moving forward with all this power that they didn't have before, this agency, these decisions that they didn't have. There's all these decisions that there weren't before. And so at every decision there's a difference in opinion, there's a difference in ethics and morals. And I think Quadzo kind of has Gertie in his corner who's saying, I appreciate your mission, I appreciate what you're doing, don't lose yourself, hang on to your humanity, that kind of thing, where others don't quite have that. For example, one character who I find really impressively, like, her character arc, I won't give too much away, is Irene.
Yeah.
Irene goes from we don't hear a lot from her, we're not even sure we like her, and then we get this kind of, like, this power in her, this I don't know if even rebelliousness is the right word, just she's fed up and she's ready for things to change and but I do think that there is a humanity factor, there is a love that still drives her, and we see some characters who haven't experienced love and connection like that. They haven't even experienced the feeling, let alone the loss that makes, for the yearning, and that kind of is your North Star, your guiding. And so I honestly think the difference comes down to the experience with love and connection and just shows kind of the importance of community. I don't know, Marcus, how'd I do?
Yeah. It's
What
greater.
Haley said. What Haley said.
I was
What
so
Haley said.
nervous, like, "Marcus Redmond, please like my answer."
He's
No.
gonna tell us
It's
later
I
that he
mean,
didn't like it, actually. I
Yeah.
don't wanna, like no,
don't
kidding.
listen to him. Don't listen to him. No, that's exactly what it listen, there I have these things, so the books sort of begin with these quotes, right? And the quotes
Yes.
sort of famous quotes that we're aware of, right? So you got Charlie saying, gives me freedom or gives me death, which is give me liberty or give me death, right? You know, you've got Gertie saying, all that power done gone to your head, your whole head, which is power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So it's very much a meditation on power and what you do with it. And when you have amassed power in such a short period of time, when you were literally a slave a month ago,
Mm,
Wow.
what do you do? And then you go to the guy who is supposed to be your mentor, and he's basically like, you'll figure it out. I'll be over here with my blood orgies and doing my thing, but you
Are you
got
sure you're
this.
not writing
You
about
got it.
corporate life?
yeah.
Because I felt like there was significant parallels to corporate life.
He's left to figure it out. He's left to figure it out. And he's going to make mistakes and he's going to do things that people don't agree with.
Yeah.
And so other things are going to form because of that. And that's just the nature of power. Like what happens, right? And I think, the betrayal, it seems to have a lot of folks up in arms.
I wonder why.
All I can say to that is if you go through Blood Slaves again, um, you have to pay attention to
Mhm.
Rafazi
Yep.
because he tells you exactly who he is. And while what he does may be shocking, it should not be a surprise.
Right.
Yeah.
You felt
That's
like
a
that,
really good
Adam?
way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that is really fascinating to me. And, someone that I think that a lot of times, and especially when you like someone, when you're friends with someone, you want to think that they're going to rise to the occasion and they're going to be better. But what Maya Angelou said, right? If someone shows you who they are, believe them,
Right.
and
Hmm.
it's like, that's the thing. You might not agree with things, but he knows who he is and he never lied about who he was. I
Nope.
think
Yeah.
that people just assumed and hoped that he would be better than he said he would be,
Right.
and,
Exactly.
we just can't assume that.
I mean, if you go back to the very first chapter of Blood
Mm,
Slaves,
yep,
he's partially responsible for the death of the Munga tribe.
yep,
It's kind of his fault.
mhm,
Because he gets told, "Oh, your brothers and sisters, what's going on?" And he
yep,
goes, "Uh-huh, yeah, all right, Imma be underground,"
Yeah.
yeah,
He just
and
hides
I mean,
away.
that's who he is. He's a self-described coward. That's
yeah,
why he tells Quadzo, "You're the leader, not
yep,
me, you do it." He hadn't even turned anyone before Quadzo, and this is a 700-year-old vampire. So in 700 years, or in the beginning, 400 years, in 400 years, he hadn't turned a single person because he didn't want the responsibility. So, you know,
Yeah, on page 4 of Blood Slaves, Rafazi's maker kinda, calls him out and says, "While your brothers and sisters meet their doom, you run and hide."
mhm.
and
And
his
he's
answer's
just
like,
kinda
"Yep,
like, "Yeah, I do that." Yeah.
yeah."
That's what I
Yeah, he's
do.
like, "I'm not gonna deviate, like, I own that. I'll take that, but I'm not
His
ashamed,"
his
right?
his goal is to stay alive, period.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Well, I think that when we talk about humanity and people are very self-centered, right? It's like and whether you're like, I work in marketing by day, and it's always like, "What's in it for me?" Always make it
Mhm,
sense, like, "What's in it for me?" Like, even when you touch on Adam, when people are like, "Oh, okay, oh, I'm an ally."
Mhm,
Until what point?
until it hurts
Right.
them, yeah.
Right. And so, I just feel like you really touched on the human condition in ways that, again, this is why you need to go slow and you need to let it soak in because there's so much happening.
I think that everyone the other thing that why I love Blood Rising so much is that we all love the beginning. We all love the vengeance. We all love that thing. But then there's a now what? And
yeah,
most people don't tackle that. And essentially Quadzo is building a society from nothing and
mhm,
with no experience. And
He's like just going off of vibes.
well, it's like, he knows what he thinks is right, and he knows that anything that could happen is better than what was before, but trying to come up with these things, it's not easy, it's not easy to figure it out in a family, you know what I mean? Let
right.
alone all of these different, personalities and all this kind of thing. But I will tell you, I know we're getting close here. this is the revisionist American history that I needed in my life right now. I look around at the world and all of the different things that I see and, knowing, reading sort of the genesis of where this came from, it is so cathartic to look at this and say, like, because I look at this point in time that we talk about, Reconstruction, if you've ever read or know, W.B. Du Bois's Reconstruction in America and looking at the promise of these different time periods that never came to fruition. The
Right.
promise and the thing that America always said it was gonna be that it never has been ever.
Right.
And looking and saying, like, "What if?" And to me, I'm like, I want it all injected directly into my brain and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
because, like, I need to even it on the page, I need to read this to have some hope right
That's it.
now.
It is
Yeah.
its own version of a beacon of hope.
Yeah,
Right, and, a thing I wrote when I was annotating this is all of the times in which the, enslaved were made to feel helpless, were kind of, like, almost like gaslit in a way, like, "You have
exactly.
no power, you have no say, you have no" and,
The fact
eventually
that it's saying
Quadzo's like,
even when you
"That's"
die, you're not going to heaven.
Right,
Like, that part, like, I was like, "You motherfucker." Like,
Absolutely
right.
horrible.
it's like
But what the thing about this, though, is I know it doesn't compare in any way, that's not at all what I'm saying, but in our current political state, the, current administration thrives on not on making us feel that way, thrives
absolutely.
on showing us the way it can control us, the way it can make us disconnect and say, "This is too much, we can't do it." And so, Marcus, I just wanna thank you because I definitely got to a state where I was so overwhelmed by the news. I was so there were days where I almost felt, like, sort of catatonic from it,
I
Mhm.
couldn't
just
agree
like,
more.
where do we go from here? How does it get worse? Of course it gets worse, that kinda thing. And I just wanna thank you because I think these books really, really kind of reignited the advocate in me, the rebel in me a little bit, and I think if this can do that for anybody who picks it up, that's a really fucking powerful thing that you've
Mhm.
done with these
Absolutely.
stories.
I really appreciate that. The Romungan blood represents inner power that we all have that's just sitting there. And all we have to do is summon it, ask, ask for it to help us through, guide us through, because this is a power from their homeland.
Mhm.
It's not this European thing. I didn't want to have some sort of Dracula character come
Right.
swooping in and like bite a slave by accident and then run off. You know, this is a thing. This is their power. And it was an evil power originally, and now it's being used for salvation.
Mm.
And
Love it.
I think that there's a lot of power within all of us that we just have to see past the gaslighting and summon it, use
Yeah.
it.
I love that. I love that you didn't say like use for good. You said use for salvation. And
Mm.
that's really it.
Yeah.
Like the word choice is so important, and not, beyond denotation, but the connotation of what salvation, means and how it feels. So I know that we have a book 3 that will be coming
Yes.
as part of the saga.
And where you left us at the end of this one
Is bullshit.
no,
No.
no. No, I think that, like I don't know if, like I to say I can't wait to see what happens
Yeah,
next, like, the promise of what could be from
exactly.
this point now, I can't even imagine where it's gonna go, but I'll be reading it immediately.
Yeah.
I can't wait to learn what the title is because I read the acknowledgments today and I saw that maybe possibly every title is gonna have blood in it. So we have Blood Slaves,
Yeah.
we have Blood Rising, and so I've been sitting there pondering the ending, trying to figure out where we might be going next, and I'm pretty excited.
Yes, we will have blood in every title, but your biggest hint is actually the last scene of Blood
Okay.
Rising.
Okay. All right.
All right. Now I'm
3 of
gonna
Okay.
us
now
are
I'm
gonna
gonna go
be
back
firing
and
messages.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, so Haley, you write, you are the publisher,
editor.
editor,
Yeah.
but sorry.
It's okay.
You're an important person at cemetery dance, and you'll be writing an article discussing this. So you guys will have some things. I want to make sure our listeners check that out, and that you and Marcus will have some additional dialogue. So I want to make sure we do that. And then Marcus, for this, when we're releasing here and just a short amount of time, I love how every time you sign books, it's like welcome to the blood. So hopefully you're going to be bringing more people into the blood. But what does that look like for your release day and forward? What are your plans?
I will be on tour. When the book comes out, I will be in the middle of the Blood Rising book tour. We're starting in Ohio, in Medina, Ohio, at Black Cat Books and Oddities,
Mm.
which is the greatest bookstore in the history of the world. And then we will be moving through Cleveland, Tiffin. I think we'll be stopping in Michigan for a little bit. We're still waiting on confirmation. We're going to Chicago. We'll be in Sacramento, San Francisco, Oakland, possibly Santa Monica.
Nice.
So yeah, it'll be a big week of me walking around talking to folks about the blood.
I'm, like, gonna go find your Chicago date. That's only about 3 hours, 2.5 hours from me. So
Oh yeah, you should.
I have to get my book signed.
The book club. The book joint is the name of the store.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, cool.
and fun fact, it's literally right up the street from the Obama Library,
Okay,
which
I
is
was
Oh my
fun.
just gonna go into
gosh.
that. I'm like, can you please share about that really that's so fucking cool.
That your book is there. Yes.
Sorry, yes, that your book is there. It's
That's
in the
Yeah,
amazing. I didn't know
it
yes,
that.
was really cool.
yes. I was
So
like,
I
wait a
got a
minute, didn't
phone
I see
call.
that? Didn't I comment on that? I was like, let me Google it real quick because that's the coolest fucking thing.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It was a pretty sweet situation. Hey, so I was in Chicago. I had to go to ALA, the American Library Association
Mhm.
conference. So my publisher, I got contacted and they said, "Hey, just FYI, we have all these things for you, but we just found out that your book is in the Obama Library. So if you can figure out a pocket of time, you should go down there and check it out because that's going to be pretty cool."
I'm sorry,
So
I can't. I'm now dead from hearing that announcement. I apologize. Yeah, right. Wow.
it was a
Isn't
pretty
it
cool
The thing
so
thing.
cool
it's
to know
it's cool to be in any kind of a presidential library, but the fact that Obama is such a reader and that he's even starting like a podcast now of like the most influential books. So like, wouldn't that be
Yeah.
amazing if you could be on that? You
oh my
should be
god.
on that is what I'm
Yes.
I
saying.
did I mean, I don't know how Barack feels about violence, but,
I mean,
He did name The Buffalo Hunter one of his favorite books
yes.
this
oh, he
whatever
Mhm.
year
did.
Last
a few
year,
years
yep.
ago when that came out. Yes,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Mhm.
It's
This is
so
actually
funny,
how
man.
I pitched this to Haley. I was like, you loved Buffalo Hunter Hunter. I'm like, you gotta read Blood Slaves because I
Yeah,
was like, it's like that where you're like, oh my God, I'm learning some bullshit here, but like
yeah.
it's also yes.
Yeah, it's such a great book, but it almost this is ridiculous. This is a ridiculous statement that I'm about to make. It almost feels like Buffalo Hunter Hunter, in my book, were like Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction in 1994.
Yes.
Because it was like those 2 films were just, like, everywhere, but it was Forrest Gump that was cleaning up and getting all the awards and stuff, and Pulp Fiction
It's so
didn't get
fair.
anything, and I'm like, "Man, come on, Steven.
Come on,
Just
Steven.
give me something, man. Give me something."
Listen,
Tag
like,
me in, tag me in.
I love Buffalo Hunter and I love Steven, but keeping with that, like, what's more well thought of now, Forrest Gump or Pulp Fiction, right?
True, true.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go with Marcus Redmond. I don't care. I'm the person who always says the embarrassing thing aloud. But like I mean they're similar vampires or similar historical or similar that they both have vampires. They do not the vampires are not the same
They're
at
very
all.
yeah, they're
They're
very
very
Yeah,
different.
different. It's historical, but no, I love where you're going. I want to read more. I
Mhm,
want to know what's happening. I love Haley, how you just touched on, like, it feels like it's hope, and
mhm.
after everything, and it is, it's like and it does make me wanna keep reading more, it makes me wanna keep
mhm,
digging in further, and so I just
same.
Marcus, I'm so glad you came on, we saw you at Card Reader Weekend, and we
Yeah.
got signed her stuff, and I was just like, "You have to come on," because
Yeah.
was already, like, a fan and just loved it, so we hope that you'll come back for book 3. We can do this, the 4 of us again, and, uh, we'll just continue to support you and be an advocate. We'll
Mhm.
be your Pulp Fiction champion.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. No, I would love to do that. On
Yes.
August of
When I saw that,
2027.
I was annotating Blood Rising, and I seriously underlined 2027. I was like, "This time next year, maybe I'll be lucky enough to have an advanced copy."
Yes.
I don't know,
Yeah,
Haley.
well,
I think he knows, like, you're pretty serious about his work here, so
You
hopefully
think
he'll
so?
be thinking of you. I hope so.
Every time I
I
tag
think
him, I'm like, he's gonna be like, "This girl."
No, I feel like at one point Marcus got a little verklempt. I don't know, like, you choked him up. That's what it sounded like, because obviously we can't see you, so you can have plausible deniability, Marcus. Um,
no, no, she did hit the nail on the head when it came to the whole, like, breaking down of the division within the
Yes.
ranks. I mean, I could have sent her off to speak on it in my stead because she nailed it.
Thank
She
you.
well,
did
we're gonna
nail it.
make
No
Haley a
higher
shirt.
compliment than that
Yeah, we're
right
gonna make
there,
Haley a
so
shirt that says, "I made Marcus Redmond cry."
Oh my god, I would lose my mind. And I just appreciate you saying that because you can ask Adam and Rebecca. I have like ADHD, so sometimes I'm like, I was too energetic and I got off track or whatever. So I always
Yeah.
appreciate that. It was a good conversation for everyone.
Yes,
Yeah,
It was.
absolutely.
for sure.
It was. We loved having you as a guest, and we loved having you as a guest, both of you. It was amazing,
Yep.
and thank you. Welcome back anytime, and congratulations and great luck on your tour coming up. I know you're just gonna kill it. You're gonna continue to just bring more recruits to the blood.
Yes. Good luck and
Here's hoping.
thank you again for the story.
Thank you guys. Thanks for
Have a good
having me.
night. You're
Yes.
All
welcome.
right, you
Bye-bye.
guys. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.